From Hagee Ministries Television Studios, today on The Difference, we welcome internationally known psychologist, humorist, and award-winning New York best-selling author, Dr. Kevin Lehman.
The firstborn, you worry about everything, what they eat. And by the time the fourthborn rolls around, you grab some food, throw it on the floor, say, dinner's ready.
Dinner's ready.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm not a theologian, but I figured it out. I think Jesus' mother gave Jesus the look.
How would you like to know why you are the way you are? Did you know birth order has an effect on your personality?
Joining us today here on The Difference is Dr. Kevin Lehman. We're discussing why birth order matters. You don't want to miss today's program.
Welcome to The Difference.
Today, Kendal and I are being joined by our dear friend, Dr. Kevin Lehman. Before we jump into a conversation that we've been anxious to have, let's take a look at the last time Dr. Lehman was here.
And by the way, we had a surprise at age 42. Anybody ever have a surprise? And then we had the shocker at age 48. So we had one at 42.
So you went from a surprise to a shock.
To the shocker.
Yeah.
When that last one came along, I'm telling you, we were looking at each other and wondering. For the ladies, when you have a baby at 48, there's no labor whatsoever. Achoo! One sneeze and you're right there. What a beautiful daughter.
You know, today Kendal and I are being joined by one of our favorite individuals to discuss life, family, and so many of the nuances and details that make a difference in your everyday life. Dr. Kevin Lehman, welcome back to The Difference. It's always great to see you, sir.
Well, listen, I'll tell you, I think we ought to call this the Cute Couple Show. I enjoy you guys so much, and when I knew that I was coming back to San Antonio to do this, I was just overjoyed. So it's just a pleasure to be here with you guys.
One of your most successful books is the Birth Order book. In the 60-plus books that you've written, this has been something that has fascinated people, and it's because I believe they see themselves in it and find out new things about themselves that they've always wondered but couldn't define.
Yeah, and many trees died in the Birth Order book's honor, believe me. I mean, that book is sold like crazy. And I've got books that have outsold that book, which is a lot of copies, but people just never forget the Birth Order book because everybody's got a birth order. And when I start talking about these little cubs come out of the same den, but they're also different. People take notice because they know their firstborn is one way and their secondborn intuitively is going to go the other way.
Absolutely. Well, you met our four children,
Yeah.
and I mean, just in the introductions and the brief conversations, each one of them is very different.
Oh yeah, they're fun. You know, the firstborn is the one we practice on.
Yes.
They're the lab rat of the family. They're the ones that get in trouble for what little brother or sister. I don't care what you did. You're the oldest. I expect more to you, young man.
Yes.
So firstborns
You
look
should
up.
know better.
Yeah.
That's always the thing
Oh
you
yeah,
say.
you should have. That's
should
another
know
one.
better.
But they look up and what do they see? They see adults. Where the secondborn, thirdborn, fourthborn in your case, they have buffers between them and mom and dad called siblings.
Correct.
So in families, there's usually an alliance where a firstborn might pair off with a thirdborn, for example, or the fourthborn. Usually skip a child to form an alliance. If there's a 5-year gap between same-sex children, like in the Leman family, we had 3 kids right off the bat, 2 daughters and a son. There's our family of 3. Then we had a surprise at age 42. And I mean surprise.
Yeah.
And then we had the shocker at 48. I'm coming home, Elizabeth. This is the big one. And that youngest is like an only child.
Because it raised in a
there's so
totally
many-
different house.
Right. And our fourthborn, she is a baby. She was like, we had a mascot now. What are we going to do with Hannah? Oh, she's fun. Let's just play with her, you know.
New puppy.
And so parents lighten up. With the firstborn, you worry about everything. What they eat. And by the time the fourthborn rolls around, you grab some food, throw it on the floor, say, dinner's ready.
Dinner's ready.
You know, kids.
Fend for
So
yourself.
we lighten up as the birth order unfurls before us. Name a comedian, you're talking to a baby of the family. Your pilots, your accountants, your engineers,
Detail kids.
your chemists, firstborn children. Nurses, firstborn and middleborn. Preachers, firstborn. policemen, firstborn. The astronauts in outer space are the first 23. 21 firstborn children, 2 onlys.
Wow.
So not a middle or a baby in sight.
So parents are talking about challenges that they have in situations where, you know, each dynamic is different. The last conversation there, you know, mom doesn't want to be the bad guy. Is there supposed to be a bad guy in parenting?
No, it's great to have parents on the same page, but most often you'll see couples at the opposite extreme. One is more authoritarian, the other is more permissive. But as I was listening to that, I thought of Jesus' first miracle at Cana in Galilee. If you remember, now you're the pastor, so you better remember this.
I got this one down.
Okay, it was Jesus' first miracle, right?
Correct.
His mother was there, the disciples were there, and they run out of vino. And I love this story because Jesus' mother comes to Jesus and says, "Hey, son,
We got a problem in the kitchen.
do your thing.
Do your thing, fix it.
We're out of wine."
Yeah.
And Jesus' mother, when Jesus says no, in fact, he calls her woman, if you
Correct.
remember. He says,
He says, woman, what does their problem have to do with me?
Right.
My time has not yet come. And she ignores him.
you should have been a pastor. You
She
know
ignores
that.
him.
Yeah.
That-
Well,
she literally blows him off and just turns to the people in the kitchen and says, whatever he says to do it. It's kind of like mom knew he was going to do it no matter what.
exactly. But here's my point, because I asked my friend Chuck Swindoll about that one day. I said, "Hey, Chuck, tell me, what's going on here?" Because Jesus clearly says no, and he turns around and does it. He says, "Well, Kevin, it might have been just one of those uncomfortable situations." I'll tell you, I'm not a theologian, but I figured it out. I think Jesus' mother gave Jesus the look.
The eye.
It's the same look you
the
give your
teeth.
kid. And so somebody's asking a question, how do you discipline your kid without raising your voice? Well,
The look.
sometimes you do raise your voice, but sometimes you just give them a look and tell them, "Hey, I am very unhappy with what's going on here, because I got news for you. Your kid, mom and dad, does not like it when you're unhappy. Tell them you're unhappy."
Well, and you're speaking about something that relationship builds. You know, as a child who grew up in close relationship with my father, I could tell by his body posture whether or not
he's
everything in
happy
the
or
room
unhappy.
was acceptable or unacceptable. You know, and
But I've told you, you read people well. You read life well. This guy is very unusual for a man. You know, if we could put him on eBay, we could bring in big bucks for this guy.
in pesos.
Yeah. Rent a husband for a week. Here he is.
Well, before we open up the rental business,
That's right.
there's a lot of things that you can connect with this ministry, and Kendal and I would love for you to find out more about them. We'll be back with more from Dr. Kevin Lehman in just a moment.
You're watching The Difference. Stay tuned for more.
But the closer kids are in the birth order, the more competition.
That
Absolutely.
makes sense.
So you have let's say you have 4 sons and a daughter at the bottom. She is toy princess. This is a woman that's going to understand men. She is best suited to marry an oldest son.
With the new year upon us, it's time to unlock the power of biblical fasting and transform your life.
Do not be content to go through this new year carrying the same burdens from your past. God has much more in store for your life and the lives of your loved ones.
For your gift of any amount, you will receive our new comprehensive devotional by Pastor Matt, Unlocking the Power of Fasting. When you gift $150 or more, we will also send you a Power of Fasting journal, a Facts of Fasting sermon by Pastor Matt, and the Pathway to Victory booklet.
You can experience a deeper, more powerful relationship with God that can only come through prayer and fasting.
Send your gift today. Call the number on your screen and visit jhm.org/fast.
Welcome back to The Difference. We're here again with Dr. Kevin Lehman talking about not only birth order, but relationships in families. And it's something that affects everyone. Take a look at this video.
Is it a naughty word? What naughty word?
Mama.
Stupid.
Yeah, not me, Mom.
Not you. You didn't say it?
No.
Are you sure? Say love you.
Or not.
Or not.
So you saw several manifestations of what you call, I think I've heard you say we've identified the enemy and the enemy is small.
Small.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're unionized.
Yeah,
It's like whack-a-mole parenting, I call it. The poor mommy, she's trying to put out one fire and
And
get
the next one starts.
And there's another one started. Not me, mommy. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Say
After you watched them do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, in
Lord, it was the woman you gave me that made me do it.
Correct.
Back to Genesis. Been around a long time.
in the video that you just saw, you have one kid that literally takes her car and runs over a sibling.
Yeah.
Now, in the context of birth order, we're looking at a 1 and a 4 here. Or we're looking at
Well, here's what happens. Let's take a little 3-year-old kid, and he hears a big word for the very first time, pregnancy. And he soon learns that mommy's going to go to the hospital and bring him home a special present. Eventually, the thing comes home, and the thing has its own room, and the thing gets gifts and visitors and presents, and pretty soon the 3-year-old's thinking, I think they're going to keep it. This is for real.
yeah, he's not a
And
visitor.
so they hear the little footsteps of that baby, even though that baby's not even crawling at that point. And that's when sibling rivalry starts. And so it's important for a young mom and dad to communicate. They'll always have kisses for you. You talk about the big boy, big girl. You help mommy get a pamper, help me change the baby. You include that child because the enemy cometh.
Yeah.
He was or she was queen of the hill, king of the hill, and now all of a sudden this little 19.5-incher is in the life. Now here's the conversation. Honey, your little sister, let me tell you something. She can't even talk.
Yeah.
She can't even walk. She can't do anything by herself, but you're a big boy or a little girl. Now, if you think that's nonsense, you're a fool.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Because I'm telling you,
ours,
It builds
because
self-esteem.
It does.
And the other additive that I'd like to add to that is help me teach them.
yes.
Because then they feel compelled to help them walk instead of shove them down the
Shoving
stairs
them.
when they
Right.
start to
We
walk.
had Hannah was only 22 months when we brought JW home for a second, and she would get all her babies out and pat their backs while
looked
I
like
was
it
rocking.
looked like a
It
triage
looked-
at a
she
mass
had-
casualty
She
event.
would pick them up, breastfeed them, bottle feed them, put them down, burp them, change them.
Much better to have her be a helper than stuffing her in the toilet.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Now,
And they'll do
Now
it.
when we brought home the
when
third
number
one,
3 came home, that's
that's
JW.
little JW being a boy. I don't know if the
Yeah.
boy, the whole gender thing was a little bit different, but he wanted to rock him and take him out of the swing. And I thought, oh my
He's a
goodness.
play toy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
He wanted to chew on him.
Let's see if he bounces.
Yeah, exactly. Now, that begs the question: how much does gender impact the birth order concept?
Well, in most families, there's firstborn son and firstborn daughter if you have multiple genders. So it could be 2 boys and a girl, and she might think of herself as a baby girl. She might be, if she was the apple of daddy's eye, and the toy princess, as I like to call her, but she might very well be a very strong-willed, firstborn mover and shaker in society someday who's got a very responsible job and is a natural leader.
Yeah.
So gender is huge,
Yeah.
But the closer kids are in the birth order, the more competition.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
So you have 4, let's say you have 4 sons and a daughter at the bottom. She is toy princess. This is a woman that's going to understand men. She is best suited to marry an oldest son. So it's the oldest and the youngest, or the only and the youngest are the best matches. When you marry outside of your birth order, you increase probability of success. When you have 2 firstborn children,
I bet you that's tough.
okay, you're driving along, and all you do is hang a left-hand turn, Dad. And as only your firstborn wife can say, why are you turning here? I mean, she's got a better way.
Yeah.
And so we tend to should on each other in the firstborn position. You should do this, you should do that. We do that with our kids all the time. You should do this, you should do that. What does that communicate? To me, it communicates you didn't measure up. Twins are the same DNA. They're genetically the same person. But this freaked me out when I found this out years ago, that identical twins have different fingerprints. I always tell people, why? Why did God give us individual fingerprints? To help the FBI?
Yeah.
To help the local police? No, it's God's way of saying, you are my son, you are my daughter, you are what? Different than everybody
Fearfully
else.
and wonderfully made.
So parents, do you treat your kids differently? Do you have different bedtimes for your kids? Most parents say, hey, all right, listen, everybody,
all equal.
everybody listen up. I want everybody in bed now. Now, why do you say that? Because you want to fool around with the wife. Tell the truth. You want the kids out of the way. Okay?
You need the me time.
Yeah,
Us
we need
time.
the me time.
Yeah. You see, me as a singular person, we is mutual. So,
Right.
you know, when mom
Yeah.
says me time, it means I'm going to do what she wants.
Yeah.
Well, I know that many of you are enjoying this conversation. We have so much more to say. When we come back, you'll hear from Dr. Kevin Lehman as he spoke here at Cornerstone Church recently.
Stay tuned for so much more. You're watching The Difference.
And it takes 3 to 7 years for a blended family to blend. Here's my guarantee. Blended family, if you're not shoulder to shoulder, and I mean no light between the shoulders, the enemy will defeat you. And I'm not talking about Satan, I'm talking about your own children.
See the Bible come to life by standing in the very places where the stories of the Holy Scriptures unfolded. Join Pastors John and Matt Hagee on this extraordinary tour of the Holy Land. Visit historical sites such as the Mount of Beatitudes, where Jesus delivered the Sermon on the Mount, float upon the waters of the Dead Sea, and pray at the Western Wall. Join us November 6th through the 16th, 2023. For more information, call the number on screen or go to jhm.org.
The God we worship tonight, we just sang his praises, is a God of the supreme authority. He's not an authoritarian, like all of you grew up in authoritarian homes like me, right? Hey, you listen up. You're going to do what I tell you to do. Hey, you don't change the expression on your face, I'll come over there and change it for you. Hey, don't make me come over there. How many of you can identify with that? Well, that's the authoritarian. You know, that's what we grew up with, but that's not who God is. He doesn't grab us by the scruff of the neck and grab our earlobe and twist it and say, you're going to do this, do that. In fact, he says just the opposite. He says, behold, I stand at the door and I knock. We got to open it from the inside. Late breaking news. God doesn't move toward you. How about that one for a curveball? You want God? You got to move toward him. So firstborns are reliable, conscientious list makers. They tend to be the movers and shakers in a family. I cite in the book the astronauts in outer space. So the first 21 firstborn children. The other 2 were only children, not a middle or a baby in sight. So those of you who have a youngest child who's saying, Mommy, I want to be an astronaut. I would take him down to Denny's and show him what the fry cook does. It's just between you and me. I mean, he may not be astronaut material, but I'm just kidding. Don't send me a nasty email about that, please. But the point is that all these little cubs come out of the same den. Is it really the same den? Because with the birth of every child, the den changes. When you're head-to-head with a kid, you ever figured out that that kid is more like you than your mate? So the 2 that are most alike are the 2 that's going to bump heads. But the firstborn child, to answer your question, is the ice cutter in the lake of life. Okay? Your parents practiced on you. They worried about everything you ate. Dirt came in your mouth. Oh, honey, call ER, take him to the doctor. Oh my goodness, he got dirt in his mouth. Fourthborn. Kid picks up an old cigarette butt, puts it in his mouth. Your husband looks at you and says, good roughage, don't worry about it. Good fiber is good for kids.
It's building his immunities.
Yeah, exactly. So we tend to loosen up. That's why if you named a comedian, Billy Crystal, Eddie Murphy, Jim Carrey, Martin Short, Chevy Chase, I know all those old guys best, they're all babies of the family. The youngest ones, they're the ones that got away with murder. Where are the youngest children here? Hands up. Would you admit before God, you're in God's house, that you set your brother and sister up and got them in trouble? Absolutely. It's a skill.
Our 2 children are 4 years apart.
Our oldest child with the orders, he's definitely a rule follower.
I do notice my daughter is more take charge.
The second one is kind of a mix.
Very strong-willed.
Our son does
He
too.
has a
but-
great work ethic. He requires, I call him a locomotive. You have to get him moving.
Yeah.
Very strong-willed.
And the baby thinks he can get away with everything.
Everything,
because he
yes.
does. So
Yes.
definitely.
Eat out! Eat out! Cheese! I tell on him, he tells on me.
What does he say?
He tells. I'm a snitch, Avery. You're snitching. That's what we says.
Are you a snitch?
Uh-huh.
You are a snitch? And you're proud of it?
Where do you get those clips? Those are great.
So Reese is not proud of being a snitch,
Yeah.
but she at least knows
She's
she's
honest.
a snitch.
Yeah.
You know,
An honest snitch.
Yeah. The thing that you do see in kids is that kind of candor and honesty.
Yes.
And, you know, sometimes I think there's a lot of information that people hear and then they want to come up with an excuse why they're the exception to the rule. And so let's talk about blended families, for example. How do those families apply in the context of birth order?
Well, number one, they don't blend. They collide at best. What's green and goes 50 miles an hour? A frog in a blender. You know, when you talk about a blended family, it's a misnomer because you got his and hers, and they come together. And I wrote a book on the subject. I've written a book, I think, on every subject, but I did write a book on blended families. And it takes 3 to 7 years for a blended family to blend. Here's my guarantee. Blended family, if you're not shoulder to shoulder, and I mean no light between the shoulders, the enemy will defeat you. And I'm not talking about Satan. I'm talking about your own children.
Mm-hmm.
They have an axe to grind. They've been hurt by life already. Now they got this new person in their life. And by the way, if you are single, you're going it alone, my advice, stay single until those kids are out of the house.
Wow.
If you're dating, if you insist on dating, I've heard every story about dating. I realize how you feel. Date that man away from your house. Date that woman away from your house. Do not have contact with that person and your kids. Well, why would you say that? Because 11 months later, after these kids have really liked this guy, you find out he's two-timing you and it's all split.
And you just recreated the problem over again.
So protect your kids at all costs is what I'm saying.
I think that there are times when people hear that and they say, I am protecting them.
Well,
but the
to a fault.
Yeah, the reality of that protection is that it's actually harmful.
Right.
Because there's no opportunity for the child to find his own existence.
All right. How many parents today are brave enough to let their 12-year-old pay all the bills in their family?
None.
They should do it.
Not us.
Every family should. Let the 12-year-old make the mortgage payment. They can do it digitally online better than you can in all probability.
True.
They're whizzes. I mean, some of them can text like a woodpecker that's got a bad case of ADHD. I mean, let them do it.
You should let them do it because you want to instill responsibility?
Let them know how many bucks it costs to run a family today.
Yeah.
You know, what is a lease car payment? What's a mortgage payment? What's our rent?
They should know. Then it
And I
be...
call it reality discipline
Yeah.
in one of my books, the book Making Children Mind Without Losing Yours. That's another million seller, by the way. And that's a book that talks about the difference between authority and authoritarianism and why you want to be in healthy authority. But it says, hey, give your kids reality experiences.
Yeah.
Let them figure things out. Let them give back to the family. 3-year-olds can help empty a dishwasher. From the get-go. Let kids be part of the action.
Here's my problem with that I do. Like, I let them start it, but I'm a perfectionist and it's not good enough. So then I tell them, oh, you know what? Get out of the way. I can get this done so much faster.
You can.
In which I know. He's like, let them finish it.
Yeah. Well, you married a smart man because what happens, and let me speak to perfectionism as bluntly as I can, it's slow suicide. Okay? So you got to put away that ability. I'm married. Mrs. Uppington can spot a flaw at 50 paces. I'm going out. Mrs. Uppington is my wife. That's my nickname for her. Her name is Sandy. And she'll say to me things like, you're not going out like that, are you? I said, time out. What's the problem? You got a big spot on your shirt. Only one? I'll be back in an hour and a half. Don't worry about it. But she has that ability to spot the flaw. Well, we are all flawed to the core.
That's right.
So if you have that rock around your neck called perfectionism,
break it.
It pays off in your business. The skill that makes you a great nurse, physician, engineer, accountant, that same skill to find the flaw is the same basic flaw that works against you in your marriage, in your relationship with your kids, and you end up shooting on other people. So my basic advice is learn to flaunt your imperfection. Well, if there's something that's unnatural, it's flaunting your imperfection. Nobody wants to flaunt their imperfection. I'm saying work toward that. When you pray to Almighty God, do you pray out of your real self? Oh, Lord, make me this. Oh, Lord, make me that. Or do you pray from your real self? Lord, you know I struggle with this. You know I struggle with that.
Yeah.
You tell me what's the healthier prayer. I think we can all figure out which way is the healthy way to go.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So as you develop transparency in relationships, everything goes better.
Yeah, you know, so much of this wisdom is available in Dr. Lehman's books, and I encourage you to look them up. The website, again, is Birth Order Guy, and there you have the opportunity to find out more about these resources, how you can connect with his podcast. But before we leave, Kendal and I want to share with you something that gives you the opportunity to make a difference in the world around you. It's called the Sanctuary of Hope. It's a place where young ladies who are in need of a life solution can find one. And it's a great way for you and your family to make a difference in a generation to come. You can find out more by going to sohcares.org. And I encourage you to do so today.
The life of a child is precious in God's eyes, and the gift of life is something you can become a part of today. We at Hagee Ministries are offering you the opportunity to change the life of a child and mother by becoming a legacy partner. As a legacy partner, your monthly gift supports the Sanctuary of Hope, that is a one-of-a-kind safe haven that provides a home to single expectant mothers and offers resources that will enable them to find success in their communities. The Sanctuary of Hope exists to provide a loving, safe environment where both baby and mother can receive the education, care, and hope they so desperately need. When you partner with us, our legacy becomes your legacy, and together we are impacting lives and transforming nations for Jesus Christ. There has never been a better time to share the love of Christ with a mother and a child than right now. Become a legacy partner today. Call the number on the screen or go to jhm.org/partner.
Kendal and I want to thank our good friend Dr. Kevin Lehman for coming and joining us on today's program. We also want to thank you and hope that the information that we discussed today was not only a blessing to you, but helps you understand how fearfully and wonderfully made you are. For more information about this program, you can follow us on Facebook or go to jhm.org. God bless you and thank you for watching The Difference.